Opie and Anthony Show continues.
Just an old-fashioned love song.
Oh, yeah.
Coming down in three-part.
Coming, yeah.
Open the door for Paul Williams.
Just an old
Here he
Fashion
comes.
love song.
Welcome back, Paul Williams. What a pleasure.
We bow to you, sir.
I love Paul Williams.
Just
Take a seat, sir. Well, we can sit him over here first.
Where? What do you want?
You're right there.
right
is
there,
good.
Mr. Williams.
Sure.
We got to
Pull
call
up
you
a mic.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams, please.
Mr.
It's
Williams.
the Paulie Show, the Opie and Anthony, Opie and
Yes.
Anthony and Paulie
And
Show.
Paulie. Paul
Paulie
Williams.
Mama.
Man.
We can't believe that you don't play piano. We're
Well, you know
amazed
what?
by that.
Yeah, but you got to understand something. Just
Yeah.
because you can.
Where am I going?
Hold on, we got a mic up here.
Yeah, there's a mic right there. Pull that mic up.
Hold on. What button there?
The last one, this.
Oh,
Okay,
my
okay.
God. There it is. Yeah, pull that mic up because if you could still talk.
Okay, wait a minute. Do you buzz you?
That's
Actually,
amazing.
when you keep the sound off, then it's like, loneliness takes the romance.
You could be, you could be great. You know, if you don't hear it.
How do you know what chord sounds like what if you can't play it?
Well, because, do you know what it sounds like when you fart and you haven't quite
Yes.
done it,
Sounds like everybody else in the room going, oh.
Hey, what mic is that, Mars? We're trying to set up Paul Williams nice here. Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Anthony brought up a very good
I did.
point or question.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I obviously watched you years ago and all throughout your career, and I know I could remember seeing you at the piano on some of those shows singing
know.
a song.
Yeah.
Did they maybe tape you from the other side?
No. It was like, I think I actually played a couple. I think I could play a Perfect Love. I could, but there were like shows that we do in England where you pre-record everything. So you're lip syncing anyway.
Oh, okay.
So it's like
So
when
you're
you do that,
just
right?
like,
it's like,
you can be the best. Yeah.
He throws his hands up in the air.
Yeah, do that thing where you get under the piano and play backwards,
You can do
upside
whatever.
down.
Yeah,
Sure.
pick it up and carry it.
Yeah.
But I can't hear anything.
Yeah, what's the matter with that keyboard there, Mars? It doesn't sound very loud.
Where's the volume?
Oh, man.
Oh,
We hear it here.
Right.
You
but
do.
Your headphone
barely.
volume's up?
Barely.
Yeah, barely.
people looked right through me when I was all alone. Never seemed to notice I was there at all.
Oh, there's a little volume.
They always seemed to look the other way, and winter days were colder.
You're playing the
I
piano.
was all alone. But it's pretty bad. It's like, wait a minute. You can make a living doing this? Really? Just an old-fashioned love song playing on the radio. And wrapped around the music, it gets pretty boring.
No, what are you kidding?
Not for us.
Just an old-fashioned love song. Wait a minute.
Just
An old-fashioned.
on stage. Wait a minute.
Coming down in three-part harmony. It's terrible when I do it. That's why I spend all that money for musicians.
When you wrote that song, because it does have kind of a more I don't know the word for it, but it's a little more campy when you did it. A little more like almost ragtime-ish.
I did it very ragtime.
Yeah, very ragtimey. When you when Three Dog Night took it,
Yes.
do you have any say over how it is or what it sounds like, and then it gets released, or you can say, I don't want my song.
I'm not even allowed in the building.
So once
Chuck
they
Negron said, first of all, I don't want to record it. And
God.
I had 3 hits with Three Dog Night. Are we on the air yet?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
yeah.
Not interesting. Changes nothing. Changes absolutely nothing. But there's a guy named Richie Podler who was their producer. I had 3 hits with him. I had Old Fashioned Love Song, Family Man, and Out in the Country. In the opposite order. Out in the Country, Old Fashioned Love Song, and Family Man. Hold on, give me 20 minutes while I remember which order they're in. But the fact is that they didn't want to record any of those. I wrote Old Fashioned Love Song for the Carpenter's. I knew that Richard would love it. It was old-fashioned. It was kind of rinky-dinky. Richard Carpenter was going to love this. He didn't listen to it through the first verse. It was like, next. I went,
Wow.
okay.
Wow, no
You know,
kidding.
and then, but Three Dog Night recorded all three of my songs reluctantly, and they were all three hits.
They didn't want to do it.
They didn't want to do it. They didn't like me. They didn't like my songs. It
What
was
the
like-
fuck is
I
that
know
problem?
I know. No, but, actually, Chuck Negron and I are really good friends. No, it wasn't a matter of they didn't like me. It's just they wanted to do a little edgier stuff. But Family Man is very edgy. Play it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you don't have it queued up? Oh, okay, I'll have to be leaving. No?
No, we can play a little bit of that.
We could definitely.
Yeah, they made your
hear
song
that.
dark.
They made it dark.
They made it dark.
This tired city was somebody's dream. Yeah, exactly. But
Well, I'm talking about love song too.
When you
Old-fashioned
heard,
love
when
song,
you
they
heard
made dark
old-fashioned
too.
love song,
that's the good old song.
yeah.
I loved what they did with it.
were you did you liked it like right away?
Listen. If I was the only one who sang my songs, I'd be hot walking horses right now. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here with Opie and Anthony. I would be, go, come on, Paint. Let's get you wiped down before you catch a sneezy. You know?
Yes. Oh my God!
How many hits did
wow.
you have?
Not nearly enough. Not as many as people, like we tried to really puff it up in all the bios through the years. Looked like I looked like a really important writer, but there are guys out there with so many more hits than me, But I had a half dozen that kind of hung in
More
there.
than a
and all.
half dozen, I think. Come on.
You know what? But see, here's what I'm excited about. I just turned. You guys called me my birthday. I just turned
Yes.
73. I've got the 2 songs on the Daft Punk album. I'm more excited about my 2 album cuts on
That
Daft
was
Punk.
really cool. Yeah.
We played the whole
Yep.
song the other day. It was
Did you
great.
play-
Yeah.
We loved it.
Well, how about Beyond? I wrote 2. I wrote Beyond too. You didn't know that. I wrote the lyrics to that with these guys. So, but
What was
yeah,
the Touch one? I loved it.
Touch is the one that
We liked
that's the
hearing
one
you.
I sang.
Yeah, singing
9
on it.
minutes long. So they have to pay me double.
Yeah. Oh, really? That's
I
a lot.
hope so. I feel a lawsuit coming.
How did that come together?
They called me. They were fans of. I did a movie in the '70s called Phantom of the Paradise, which was, which even my family didn't watch. It was like, this was not a motion picture that was going to change the world based on the number of people that went to see it, except in 2 cities. In Winnipeg, Canada, for some reason, Winnipeg and Paris, and so the 2 gentlemen of Daft Punk had seen Phantom of the Paradise like 20 times, and they were in the studio. And Chris Caswell, who's my music director, my piano player, went in to do some piano overdubs on. I think it was on Tron. They were doing the score
wow.
for Tron, and they started talking about Paul Williams, and he went, "Well, I just came off the road with him." They said, "We're trying to find him." I went, "Oh," and they went, "Ooh." And they called me, and you know what? They were fabulous to work with. It wasn't where you went in and they had built the house and they were looking for wallpaper. They were wondering what the house was going to look like. So at the very beginning, the first song we wrote was Touch.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
a cool
Listening to
song.
you sing on that was pretty cool. Definitely.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, how courageous of them. Instead of just doing one more EDM, one more dance music album, they created that whole thing. They could have done that, but instead they were very brave, and they got the guy that wrote. If I keep playing, the more times I do this, the more times I get paid
you'll
for
get
it.
it right.
Just an old fashioned. I'll be so. Every now and then, I'll just have to sing a few bars. You'll swear you've heard it before. It's slowly, right? But what a treat. They were wonderful to work with, and I love that they put like this. The astronauts' comments about seeing something out there. Cernan's comments. What was his name?
Yeah.
Dr. Edgar Mitchell? Was it Mitchell, the one who saw something out there?
Or Cernan. Was his name Cernan? Is it? I'm showing my ignorance.
sure.
At this point, I've now lost all of the fans of
No.
space travel. But I'm 73 and it's going around that I have a great memory, but she's back on the West Coast.
Yeah. You actually are you getting any more offers from more contemporary artists?
Not one.
No, huh?
No,
I'm
no.
very surprised. I bet you will.
No, actually, what I'm doing right now is we're writing Pan's Labyrinth as a stage musical based on the Guillermo del Toro film.
Oh, yeah, that's-
So doing that with Gustavo Santaolalla, and Gustavo and I just wrote 2 songs for a movie called The Book of Life, an animated film for Fox that Guillermo is producing. And I've got my day gig. I've got the 2 things that are really exciting in my life is the day gig at ASCAP, fighting to make sure that young writers can make a living and all, and my website, which is gratitudeandtrust.com. And Tracy Jackson and I are writing a book Gratitude and Trust Recovery is not just for addicts, for Penguin. It'll be out next year. So we're writing a book where, we kind of created a bunch of affirmations. So if your life is totally screwed, based on bad habits, if you're a gossip, or you keep settling down with the wrong person, you keep marrying the last wife over and over again in a new body, we've written some affirmations that can kind of help you put your life together. We
Very
hope.
cool.
Oh, wow, yeah. And obviously from experience,
Well,
you
yes.
have some experience in that.
Absolutely. I have a black belt in whoops, I have a black belt in whoops.
I am. It is surprising sometimes how your memory can be so good with all the drug abuse in your earlier.
You know what? Yeah, exactly. I misplaced. The bumper sticker line is that I misplaced a decade. You're an alcoholic when you misplace a decade. Like, whoops, the '80s gone.
Yeah.
Reagan president. I didn't know. But yeah, I've been sober 23 years, and it's been the most amazing gift. To wake up in the morning and remember what I did the night before. I'm still embarrassed and ashamed once in a while, but at least I know what to do about it. I remember, and the fact is that and I speak a lot. I speak, I share my story a lot at a public level and all. And it's a boring story. It's your basic mayonnaise and kind of a drunk-a-log, but I never came out of a blackout with a Russian arms dealer or a
none of those.
I'd come
wake up on a plane to somewhere you don't know where you're going.
I'd come out of a blackout in the boys department of Sears, trying on reindeer sweaters.
Some tough skins.
Yeah.
How grateful are you? I'm very happy that there was no Twitter when I drank and no no immediate way for me to connect with a lot of people.
All we had was Drink and Dial.
Yeah.
all we had was Drink and Dial, and it was, and the fact is, even today, I try to not send any major, even in totally complete sobriety. I don't want to send something out late at night. If I've decided I had a brilliant moment, let's sleep on it.
Sleep on it, see if you want to, put it up there for the world to see.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Of course, the other thing we're all talking about is the fact that, and it's so Muppety, that they did the Muppet nearly 35-year anniversary. Kenny Asher and I wrote the songs for the Muppet movie. They've now released it on Blu-ray as a nearly 35th anniversary. They released the soundtrack and asked me to write the liner notes. So it's interesting that that's been 35 years.
Right.
35 years, yeah.
So I have you to thank. It's my son's favorite movie. I've seen it 10,000 times in the last year.
This is.
I used to love the Muppets.
This is really testing our friendship, isn't
Wow.
it? Sorry.
But at this point, I could name 30 Muppets easily.
Exactly. And you have a favorite? I love Gonzo.
Gonzo's all right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Sweetums.
Sweetums, yeah, Sweetums. But I also like, I like Ratso. I like
Ratso.
Ratso is very cool.
What do you think of the new movies? Well, the second one's coming out, in the new year, but the first one I really liked.
I was really impressed with them.
kept it going.
And they were nice enough to put Rainbow Connection in as the big number at the end.
There's not a movie without that song.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Lord.
What do you mean nice enough? They had to.
It's nice to be working again.
Of course they're going to do Rainbow
It's like
Connection.
the Love Boat theme. It's like you're lying there in bed, in some little town in Ohio, and you turn on the TV's on for the night before, and your mouth tastes like the south end of a northbound buffalo, and you're hearing the Love Boat. So you were singing it.
Anthony was.
Anthony
Anthony
was.
did.
Come on, do
I was
it.
harmonizing with him a
I
little
was
bit.
just going, the Love Boat soon will be making another run.
See, this is
the Love Boat.
What I would like is because that's what I used to sound like.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
that's
yes.
all the cocaine. It was like you couldn't get your words
nasal,
out.
yeah, a little nasal because of the
collapsing up there. And
I never knew that was from the Coke.
I don't know if it was or not, if it was just arrogance or what. It was
Love
clogged.
exciting and new.
You sound-
Climb aboard. We're expecting you.
See, I'd like the old me to have a conversation with the new me.
With the new you.
Exactly. I'd say, old me, what were you thinking?
Fun. That seems to be what anyone was thinking back in the...
Yeah, well, we did it till the wheels fell off. We had a lot of fun, but I also think that a lot of that was just medicating. You're sitting there, and everything in the world is going right. You're this little kid from Bennington, Nebraska, and all of a sudden you're sitting in a room with Sinatra or Cary Grant or somebody, and some part of you goes, "Do I belong here at all?" And rather than look at that thought, you go, let's have one more drink here. You know, yeah, you medicate.
Was it a confidence thing? Yeah,
I think so. I think fear-based thinking is behind a lot of booze, a lot of drug addiction.
You were in Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh yeah.
My art films. Smoking the Bandit 1, 2, and even worse.
Even worse. Yeah.
Actually, even worse was the most fun to make. They were a vacation to make and a job to watch. It was like, and Billy Bob Thornton. And I think I actually used this on the air with you guys before. But Billy Bob Thornton has the best line ever about Smoking the Bandit. He says, you know, in Paulie in the South, they consider Smoking the Bandit a documentary. It's like, you know, and he's right.
Yeah.
I get off the airport. Off the plane and walk through the airport in Nashville, and Little Enos is a star.
Oh yeah.
That first one was one of the great comedies of all time.
Movie,
That's
man.
a great comedy. Gleason was
literally
brilliant in
a
that.
classic.
Really funny.
Gleason from about 10 in the morning till about 4 in the afternoon. Gleason was amazing. Before 10 and after 4, you know, it was you were kind of taking your life in your hands. He called me Hardly. You know, while we were shooting the first one, or no, not the first one, maybe the second or third one. It was. No, it must have been. I was given a star on Hollywood Boulevard. He went, you've been given laurels. You know, you've been given laurels, Hardly. You know, so
Oh shit.
so then I became Hardly. So as I'd go, oh, why don't we change this line? And just he'd go, Hardly, if it ain't broke, we don't fix it.
Did you get to know him at all?
Yeah, a little bit, and there was one amazing experience where we were cut loose around 4 on Pat McCormick, who was the great big guy that played, you know, my daddy, Big Enos Burdett.
Sure.
Yep.
And so Pat
McCormick,
and Jack and I went, and there was a Mexican restaurant that he wanted Mexican food. It was closed. He went in. He was the great one. They opened it for him, and he had been drinking all day, and he would drink those big plastic cups you make malts in. He would drink that full of, I think, vodka and air. I don't know I don't know what he mixed it with, but he was very, very drunk, and he got into one of these coughing fits. He did that for about maybe 15 minutes, and then he was just quiet, you know. And you'd ask him a question, and instead of answering, you'd go.
Oh my God!
And at some at one point, I went, Jack, if you're going out, if you're dying, can I have your watch? And he opened up one eye and looked at me like, you little. So I knew he was okay. But,
You could tell even during some episodes of The Honeymooners, he would get into these coughing fits, and then when he was smoking the cigar, and he'd stop and go, "Pays to buy the best."
I loved him. And you know, I worked with Art Carney too. I did a movie I did a movie called The Night They Saved Christmas and Art Carney played Santa Claus. I played his chief helper. I played more than one elf in this lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, I've got my own ears and pointy shoes. You know.
Somebody said ask you about Pat McCormick. I don't know if you had any Smoking the Bandit stories with Pat.
Well, Pat used to write the monologues for Carson, so that's where I met him. That's where you know, he wrote all the hilarious monologues for Carson. And our first conscious memory is coming out of a bar, him looking at me, towering over me, looking down at me, and he goes, "You know what, little guy? You look like an aerial photograph of a human being." 6 foot.
What an asshole! That's great.
I said, "Wasn't I stationed on you during the war?" You know? And it was so funny. He said, "You know, I can't find my car. I don't know where I parked in my car. You're going to have to help me find it." I said, "Okay, well, I'll help you find it. What kind of car is it?" And he went, "Oh no, that would be cheating." Yeah, I just loved it. We were great friends. We did a bunch of Fall Guys together. I actually wrote a movie for us called A Rooster. It was a movie of the week. It was a pilot. We did that, and we had a great time. But you know, then he had a bad stroke, and just you know, then he finally passed away. But great guy.
Yeah, how long did you write for Carson for? That's amazing.
He wrote for Carson for years. That's where Burt got the idea. I did 48 Carsons. I remember 6. You know, so I was in doing Carson and doing the Tonight Show, and Burt Reynolds was on the show. And Burt, I don't remember if it was before or after I'd done a movie called The End. I scored for Burt. But he looked at Pat McCormick and I standing there talking. He said, "I got to get this on camera," you know. And the next thing you know, he calls and he said, "Come on down and play the villains in my movie." You know?
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Smokey the Bandit was before The End, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it was.
I
yeah,
like the
yeah, it
end.
was, yeah.
The end was a good movie,
Dom
too.
DeLuise.
Dom
with
DeLuise in the end
of
is one of
course.
the great performances, one of the
Amazing.
funniest performances ever.
Absolutely.
You're right. Yeah.
The man's nuts. Grab him.
Right.
Yeah. Famous line there.
Love this.
Yeah. You got any Carson stories? We've been learning a lot about Carson lately.
His lawyer's coming in. Henry Bushkin wrote
Yeah.
a book about him.
That'll be great.
And we saw the documentary recently, and obviously everyone says how he didn't really have a lot of friends.
You know, it's funny because I was really tight with Ed McMahon. And it's funny because Ed McMahon introduced me to his new wife, and he said, Paul had a kind of a problem with alcohol. That's like getting your 4th star for an alcoholic to have Ed McMahon
tell you.
to have Ed McMahon, the world's most famous drunk, turn to his wife and say, Paul had a problem with alcohol. It was like I had arrived in alcoholic fame. It was complete.
Oh my God!
But I had a friendship with Ed with Carson, I'd go in to do Carson, and I would never talk to him until we were on the air.
That's what people say. Yeah,
it was like you kind of stay away in that way, and I think it was part of his successes that he would keep it fresh, And so what happened when you're sitting there talking to each other? If you have that conversation in the dressing room. It's like if we had a long talk before the show, this should be really even more boring than it is. But the fact is, because we're out here, catching up for, after all these years, it's a little more interesting. But yeah, with Carson, it was just. Yeah, we went out a couple times, but I liked him very much. I loved how he would laugh. My favorite moment ever on the Carson show was I went on in full orangutan makeup. I was
Planet of the Apes,
Planet of the Apes, Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Carson said to me, reached up and he touched my orangutan makeup, and he said, "This is for a movie, isn't it?" I said, "No, this is 7 months of nothing but banana daiquiris." And he fell off. It's my favorite bit of tape that I have of me.
It always seemed like a very sincere laugh, and he wasn't putting it on, and he genuinely enjoyed having people make him laugh.
What a great gig,
right?
What a great gig to just sit there and have what you across from you on that couch is everybody from.
Yes.
Raquel Welch to Gregory Peck to
right,
whatever, yeah,
and they're there to pretty much entertain you. They know if they get a good laugh off of Johnny, they did well.
They did the job.
So they're trying to impress Johnny. Yeah,
standing back behind that curtain, waiting to go on with a special energy. I mean, it was like you kind of go, okay, I can go out right now because everybody's watching. The choices for entertainment these days are so so amazingly fractured. But in those days, there were 3 networks, and everybody watched the Tonight Show.
You watched Johnny. Hell yeah!
I was just reading how they honored him at Harvard one year, and just the student. Like now, it's like late night talk show guys aren't as much, But back then, it was just like everybody loved him.
Yeah.
Man, what
I added nothing there, by the way.
I got to ask Paul about the documentary. That was when we met you. You came in to promote the documentary on yourself.
Yeah.
How did that work out for you?
It's interesting. It's my warts and all documentary. There are parts of it that are hard for me to watch. That is, they're looking at this little guy who's just this vapid, arrogant, loaded out of his brain. There's footage of me hosting Merv Griffin one. It's like I am so clearly loaded. But the part that's tough is that I had no sense of that. That I didn't, look at how I was like this cocky, arrogant little. I'm joking about marital infidelity on the road, and I looked at that footage and I went, I don't want my daughter to see that. Let's take that out. But then, I had editing rights, and I thought, if this is going to be a film about recovery, if it's going to be a film about recovery, then you need to leave it in. So it's if this arrogant little bastard could get his act together and have the life that I have, then anybody can.
There wasn't an inkling that you were being an arrogant guy, or did you have any close friends or family that were like, "Hey, Paul, you're kind of being a dick"?
Oh yeah, you know what? What they said was they didn't say that would have been wonderful. They did what they did say is Chris Caswell, who was my piano player and music director, said, I'm really worried about you. You're doing, like you're really kind of losing it to the drugs, and I fired him.
Oh right, yeah, you fired him.
Fired him, yeah.
All right, so people were kind of gun shy.
Exactly. And the thing is, after I got sober, I just went and threw my arms around him and went, "You were the one," because there were a lot of people that were, even though I was a mess, we were making a bunch of money and they were kind of cool with it, So
there are people that you were close with, burned bridges with, and then wouldn't accept an apology or a hey, after your recovery.
No, well, I have probably wife number 2 would fall into that category.
Those are special cases.
We were married in sobriety, so that I can't really say that. I think that I was really fortunate that the people that my worst years, I actually wasn't around a lot of people. I didn't, I just disappeared. I went from doing 48 Tonight shows to like within a 10-year period or whatever to just I just pulled the plug,
Yeah.
So I didn't go out and screw things up so bad and all, but I have had situations where I told somebody I wanted to, kind of getting out of the car as an afterthought. Oh, by the way, I probably owe you an apology for the way that I treated you while we were working on Ishtar. And the guy that I was talking to reached over and grabbed the car door and kind of shut the door and said, "If you want to talk about it, let's really talk about it." And I was sort of like, "Ooh, I was sort of tossing something like lightly away, that was a
Right, as
major
an
thing.
aside.
Yeah, I wasn't giving it the respect and the attention it deserved.
I guess
so it's a learning process.
You'd really wronged him, and he felt it.
Yeah. He felt it, and he said, "Let's talk about what it was like."
Wow.
In other words, if you're going to do this, do it with the respect for the process and the respect for me, instead of just sliding out of the car.
Did you regret opening your mouth at that moment? Like, I should have waited till I kind of wanted to just go home and take a leak. And
You know what? I have to tell you something that probably the most important 1 minute out of this conversation today is that minute, is to be able to say on the air that I really screwed that up. That process, that it's kind of a holy process where you're putting your life back together and you have the opportunity to turn to somebody and straighten it out,
Yep.
that I treated it that lightly. So that's really important to me, to be aware of that and not do that again.
Did you have the conversation with him? And
Proper conversation.
Yeah, okay.
I heard about stuff that I'd long forgotten.
that's got to be painful to have
exactly.
to
Well, there's this place right between sleep and wake, or like late at night. You're almost, maybe you have experienced this. It is like a mail slot. It's like you're almost asleep and a memory will click. It's like God's delivery system goes, and all of a sudden there's a memory and you go, "Oh my God, I did that! Oh, sweet Jesus, did I? Oh my God!" And then you straighten it out. You go and you call that person and you say, "I need to talk to you. I owe you an amends. It may be a financial amends. It may be a whatever. But it's an interesting process."
apparently so.
I got a lot of phone calls to make. Fuck. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
And do you talk to Barbara Streisand?
I called her after I got sober and had one serious conversation with her about the way that I was so flippant about work. When I get scared, I get noisy and funny. So at least I did then. I thought I was noisy. I was certainly noisy. I thought I was funny, but I'd be very kind of flippant. And Carson asked me, "What's it like to work with Streisand?" And my line was, "It's like trying to have a picnic at the end of a runway." Which is funny. But the fact is, then in sobriety, I looked at the time that I spent working with her and for her. And, like she said, "What do you need to be comfortable?" And I said, "I'd like to have macadamias and white wine at my fingertips at all times." And it just said that. And the next day I went to her house and there were macadamia nuts next to every chair, and great quantities of white wine. But so she bent over backwards to make sure that I was comfortable in a working situation. We had 7 weeks to write the entire score for A Star Is Born, so it was a highly charged experience. But I think I was unfair to her. I think I think that in the interest of looking like I was unimpressed, probably inspired by the fact that I was totally impressed and scared to death.
Right.
But again, that wasn't a conscious thought then. That's looking back and you go, "Oh, well, what was going on?" Because then even before I was a celebrity or famous or anything, when things were really bad in my life, they were fine. It's like I was fine. I was 5 years sober when I went, "Oh my God, you had a horrific childhood. You should have been sad a lot. Let's start now." Okay, well, but it's interesting, the process. You look back and you begin to understand why you do things that are pretty unconscious.
I got a follow up question. So you guys write Evergreen.
Yeah.
An amazing song. It won the Oscar that year. I
Oscar,
believe, right?
Grammy, and the Golden Globe.
And you guys never really
Like
worked
pulling teeth to get that out of me.
I was going to do it for you. But then you never worked with her again, right?
No, we never did anything.
That is
after
so
that.
weird.
Yeah.
And were you the problem? Are you saying here today, or
I'd
is
like
this?
to think so.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
you would think she'd want to go back, considering what you guys did.
She actually recorded several songs after that, and it was very kind. I wrote a song called "Love Dance" with Yvonne Lenz. Turn up the quiet, love wants to dance. And it was on her album before last, I think. She actually recorded it twice with a small group and with a really large, beautiful orchestra. And then she recorded a song that Kenny Asher and I wrote with her called "Answer Me" on an album after this. She was really sweet to me. She recorded a bunch of tunes even after the Stars Born experience.
When you say okay, you're gonna write a movie score together, they tell you need X amount of songs for this movie. How do you begin to think of a song for a moment in the movie that isn't just literally enunciating what's happening in that moment in the movie, and then the driving? Like, how do you avoid doing that?
Well, you have two things. You have the script, which tells you what's going on in the thing, which, as you just pointed out, but you also have the characters of the people that you're writing for. So I mean, with Kermit, why are there so many? So we even write in Kermit speak. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? With the rhythm and the like. I think that what's most important is that the song kind of move the action along. It replaces the dialogue there and moves the action along. This is really going to be boring.
No, it's called creativity and talent, Jim. But you can't just say, "Hey, write a song for a movie," and then anyone can do it.
But you know what? Here's the brilliance of Jim Henson. I love Gonzo. So they're in the story. They're trying to make it out to Hollywood to become rich and famous. The car breaks down in the middle of the desert. They're around a campfire, and everybody is just like. Kermit's like, I blew it. I've failed everybody.
Spoiler alert, by the way, spoilers.
Yeah, man.
But
What's up? Give it a few more years.
Yeah, but the fact is that I looked at with Kenny and we looked at Gonzo and went, Gonzo, let's have Gonzo just look at that sky. I mean, because I've been out in the desert. I mean, in the middle of the night many times, and you look at that sky, and Gonzo is a landlocked bird. And I think we're all landlocked birds. That's why I love skydiving. I love the way it felt to be in free fall. I love that. I think we're landlocked birds. So we wrote this song. I'm going to go back there someday. I've never been there, but I know the way. I'm going to go back there someday. There's not a word yet. For old friends who just met. We wrote this song that is, I mean, it was all about Gonzo's experience, spiritual awakening, looking at that sky. And Jim Henson, when he heard it, he went, I don't know. We said, we recorded it anyway, and he listened to it, he went, what if we did this? What if we had Gonzo buy a bunch of balloons at a fair scene and experience flight? So there is an actual factual reason for him to be reflecting on having experienced flight. And then he put it in the movie. It was just, it's a collaborative process.
Yeah.
And how it works, I don't know. The big amigo is a much better writer than I am. I just try to stay out of the way,
But you jumped out of a plane
100 times.
We were just talking about that last week on the show. I just don't know how you do that.
You know what? I loved it.
Are you scared every time?
Yeah, at the time?
No, are you scared every time? Because we talked to a few guys, and they said, to this day, I'm scared when I jump out of a plane, even though I've done it numerous times.
You always get, it cleans your windshield. Of course, you have to realize the time I was in the middle of a chemistry experiment.
Oh, my God.
So if 80 seconds of free fall, I jumped with the Golden Knights. I was passed a baton in free fall by the Golden Knights, the Army free fall team, and all. So,
do you feel like you're falling, or do you feel like you're floating?
I'll tell you what it feels like. You ever put your arm out the window of the car and play with the air? It feels like that all over your body. There's no sensation because of the relative wind, there's no sensation of falling at all. If you jump out of a balloon or off like a bridge, then you get that thing in the pit of the stomach. I never did that. I always jumped from a moving aircraft, so you don't really get that and all. But it was just, in those days, in the DC-3, we'd have a little bump just to kind of make sure we were wide awake, have a little bump and to make sure everybody's wide awake. So 80 seconds of free fall would seem like a summer vacation. It was like, because your mind's going,
I couldn't imagine how fast your heart would be beating doing
a
blow
bump
and jumping out of a goddamn plane.
What's really interesting is they've done experiments they find with seasoned skydivers that the heart rate gets below normal in free fall.
Really?
Pulls it way
Wow,
down.
no kidding.
Exactly.
I couldn't imagine.
Except for the ones that you hear this, oh my God,
Yeah, screaming. Yeah,
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 exactly.
of course.
That would be us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? You might surprise yourself. You might do it once and realize that this stuff works. The physics are your friend. The shoot's going to work for you.
You've told a lot of stories about how you've been on shows and don't remember doing them or anything. Is there like one of the most embarrassing moments that you could remember watching, like now in sobriety, and going, "Holy shit"?
Oh yeah, the Merv Griffin show.
Yeah.
It was the Merv Griffin
Which is
one?
featured in the
Griffin show.
documentary.
Just,
Wow.
and it's just, you know what?
Yeah.
It wasn't even a matter of getting out there and, I mean, I've forgotten the words on shows. I've done all that stuff that normal people do sometimes.
Right,
you know?
right.
But what's tough is to look at yourself when you're just being cocky, arrogant, inconsiderate, and looking at like, hey, have I got it together? Or what? And you look at it now and you go, boy, not only did you not have it together, but you are as unlikable. The thing is that I love life and I love people and at this point, life is likable to me. I mean, I don't know if I'm likable to everybody, but life is likable to me. I love my life, and I'm grateful. That's why we're doing the book, Gratitude and Trust. But so look at that, and to see this guy who is just so full of self and so unlikable is really hard to watch.
Jeez, I'm amazed that that was a full decade of acting like that. And
well, I'm not sure. I mean, that you're having to catch me on a really, and again, I was probably scared to death. Wasn't feeling it because I was so totally loaded.
Right,
and I had
right.
probably just lost a ton of weight because I was skinny and I had my little mustache and I was going, oh God, you're Frank Sinatra crossed with Clark Gable, or and your audience is going, who's Clark Gable?
you were the coolest guy in the room, right? According to yourself.
According to me, and I look at it now, and I was
the
just a
hell?
major asshole.
Paul Williams got to go.
He's a busy man.
They're saying you got to go.
He's promoting.
Oh my goodness! So
I think you got other stuff to do.
Yeah.
I do. I have another show to do. Thank you for one more time and I love my birthday call. Thank you.
Oh, good.
We loved doing it. We thought you were going to be a little upset about it. You're very cordial.
No,
very
are
happy.
you kidding? I was thrilled. Love you
that.
guys remembered.
And Anthony sang the Love Boat on your phone the other day.
Love boat.
You didn't answer that time.
Actually, I do like that one. Just an old-fashioned love song.
Oh, I love it.
Coming down in three-part harmony.
Someday I want to come back and I want to interview that guy.
Oh man,
want to talk
we
to
should
him
do a
and find
duet.
Yeah, just an
sing it.
old-fashioned love song coming down in three-part harmony. Just an old-fashioned love song. Thank you guys. It's a
What I'm
treat.
sure.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, thanks so much, man. Always a pleasure. You're
You
great,
guys are
man.
amazing.
And we barely
Thank
promoted
you
it,
so
but it's the
much.
35th anniversary of the Muppet movie. It's being re-released out now on Amazon and iTunes. There you go. And it's I am Paul Williams on Twitter.
At I am.
At I am
GratitudeandTrust.com.
at I am Paul Williams. And what's the website again?
GratitudeandTrust.com.
Gratitude and trust.
Gratitudeandtrust.com. All right, Paul. Thank you. Come back and
Paul,
see
thanks
us.
so much, man.
you,
Great.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
In the will.
There he goes. And look, he's got like a great head of hair on him still.
And I don't dye it.
What the hell? And really?
Come on.
That's like your natural hair color and hair.
Hair color, exactly.
Man. Yeah, it's amazing.
See, the cocaine
Thanks a
did
lot.
something right. Kept that hair healthy.
He's fantastic,
I
man.
love
What a sober guy he is. Like,
Yes.
I really admire him. He's a very, very sober guy.
He's one of those guys that if he ever went back to boozing and drugs, that you'd be like, there's no hope.
Yeah.
For that, for anybody.
Yeah. Right.
Because he really seems to have pulled himself
And embraced
together.
it.
He's still as creative as ever, and like you said, loves life.
Yeah.
That's fucking great.
Very
He's
nice
great.
man.
Great.
Listen, it's Wednesday, so it's podcast day. The Opie and Anthony
Ooh.
podcast, episode number 21. We dug deep. We got the wheelchair Fred bit,
Oh, the dildo one?
the dildo in the bathtub bit.
That is fucking
It
disgusting.
really is. We haven't played it in years, so it's up on our podcast this week. And we also have James Caan telling Godfather stories.
Yes.
And then I think the nugget is Brother Joe doing the Godfather theme on his guitar. Really, really fucking solid version of that. So,
Yes.
Go get it.
yes.
And I'll be here for another 45 minutes doing.
Advice show
Oh,
day.
we
Fuck.
stepped on
That's
Jimmy's
fine, dude.
advice show.
Oh, still
Jimmy.
good sober talk with Paul Williams.
Somebody's going to fucking not call and get into trouble because they didn't get your advice.
And October 25, 26, I'm in Rochester at the Comedy Club.
Right.
Opie and Anthony have left the building. But Jim Norton is not going anywhere. If you have problems and a phone, it's your lucky day. The Jim Norton Show is